Nice. Now you're in criminal law. Talk about that. Talk about the journey in getting into criminal law and why you chose that over the other fields within law.
Yeah, so I dabbled a little bit in like entertainment law and business law in law school. But ultimately what did it for me was I volunteered with Project for the Innocent, which is a clinic at Loyola Law School. They work on cases of wrongful conviction, so people that have been wrongfully convicted and are innocent and behind bars. And that was just so fulfilling. My case, the case that they assigned to me just randomly, we actually ended up exonerating him. He had life with parole, if I'm not mistaken, but he had been down 20 years and he was completely innocent. And so we ended up exonerating him, and it just was so fulfilling. That really was what did it for me. I just always was really interested in criminal law, but that was definitely the deciding factor there.
Absolutely. Now, there's been a number of high-profile cases in that area. One particular, the Nipsey Hussle. I don't seen a few articles. I don't know if they're true that you were representing somebody in that case. Is that true?
That's true. Yeah. There was a gentleman that was shot alongside Nipsey, and his name is Kerry Lathan. And the issue with that was he was a parolee, and so when all of the Nipsey stuff happened, they actually arrested him, and he had pending charges for a parole violation for being around a known gang member, which that member was Nipsey. And so he was, facing a parole violation essentially.
Okay. Do you with that particular case, so you just handled it for that, so you're not like defending him, but he's done pretty much at this point, right?
It got dismissed. Yeah.
Okay. Now the case, looking from an attorney's point of view, Nipsey Hussle's case, how do you see the outcome happen in just a few months, if you're at liberty to even talk about it?
Yeah. So since it's not my case, there's no like attorney-client relationship with
Right.
the gentleman who is, going to potentially go to trial on that. And also because it's not my case, I don't have like the discovery. I have really no idea like what the legal issues are or anything like that. I know what y'all know, whatever is public information. So I'm not sure. I just have a gut feeling, not even like from being an attorney, but I just have a gut feeling that he's going to end up pleading out instead of going to trial.
Now, we talked about it numerous times on this platform. Obviously, within the year and some change now since Nipsey's passing, camera angles were something we spoke about a lot, and having confidence in those camera angles that we see. In your expertise, just for the people that speculate whether that's enough or not to convict the alleged criminal, the alleged man at this time, is that enough? Or should we be worried that that's not enough based off of what we see just out here on the internet and various platforms?
You're asking, is the surveillance footage enough?
Yes.
I mean, I've seen and heard about people getting convicted on way less. Some of the wrongful convictions that I've done, it's like, how did you get convicted off this? So I mean, yeah, but it's my understanding that it's more than just, I'm sure they have more than just surveillance. There's probably statements. There's probably other things that will be brought in as far as evidence. So I don't think that might be like their main evidence, their most valuable evidence, but I'm sure that there's more than that.
Correct. Another case that happened, or I should ask you about this, the inequality in the justice system. Would you say, being a criminal attorney, that, is disproportionate, Black and Latinos, get convicted more than their white counterparts, being as though you work in the system? How do you feel about that?
Oh, absolutely. And, it starts even before that. It's that minorities are arrested more and investigated more. If I'm driving down the street, and I commit a traffic violation, it's less likely that the police are going to order me out of my vehicle and want to search than if one of you guys were driving and committing a traffic offense. So that's just, unfortunately, it's just how it is. And I see it every day. It's awful,
How would you say the relationship? I mean, obviously, we know the relationship isn't what it needs to be between the police and the people in the community that are being charged wrongfully, the people of color, Black and Latinos. How would you say the relationship is now between the police and people in these communities?
There's just, especially out here in LA, there's very little trust.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's the community doesn't trust police. You know, they're just like any other profession. There are good cops. There are cops who don't see color, and there are cops that are fair. But unfortunately, there are also bad cops, and they're in such a position of authority that that kind of blankets anything that's good or unbiased, you know.
Right. The Tekashi 6ix9ine case, I'll talk to you a little bit about that. I don't know how much you've been following that, but it seems like I've seen that, you know, we actually sat through a trial of another rapper in Philadelphia. It was a federal trial similar to that. There was drugs involved, murders, hits on people, but for cooperating, it seemed like he got, you know, he got out very fast. Would you say that has something to do with the race as well? That a black man, you know, could pretty much, you know, do the same thing, but on the other side of the country, an Hispanic man who looks more so white, you know, to the naked eye, he got off because he was able to cooperate. Is there any correlation with that at all, would you say?
You know, I think that more than likely in that particular case, it's having more to do with the facts of the case and what he was able to provide in his cooperation.
Okay.
I don't think that a sentencing judge is going to allow color to override like those other federal factors that come into federal cases when you know, when people end up cooperating. So, right. I mean, of course, in some cases, that's going to play a factor, unfortunately. You know, we still have a lot of really old judges on the bench, especially in federal courts. But there are just so many other factors and things involved with federal cases and federal sentencing that I think that if it was an issue, it would have been a small issue.
A trial, it seemed like to us, just sitting in there in the trial, that the judge was more partial to the prosecution when we were sitting in this one trial. And it seemed like, you know, anything the defense, they were very good. Anything they tried to put forward, they didn't let them get certain things in on the record. So have you ever had that experience yourself where he's like, you know, it looked like the judge is on the prosecution's team here?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's really interesting. You can actually look up and see, you know, before this person became a judge, did they work for the DA's office or were they defense? And a lot of times that will play a role into their decision making and their understanding of the legal issues that are presented to them. Because I've had judges who have a history of, you know, their background is criminal defense, and they're a lot more fair, and vice versa. You know, I've had some judges that are just complete. It's like, why am I even here? You don't even listen to what I have to say or grant anything. And then I look up and I'm like, oh, of course, you know, they were a DA their whole life.
Right. Marijuana. I'll let you one second. In marijuana, you're in LA County. Do you see now that it's been legalized there, that arrests, because, you know, have went down with Black and Latinos, or is there any correlation with that? Because I know a lot of the times getting pulled over, we know once they get that scent of marijuana in your car, now it gives them grounds to go and want to search other things. And, you know, some guys like to smoke, women or whatever like to smoke. Has it went down any in that county since marijuana has been legalized, or is it still about the same?
Yeah, marijuana related arrests, like I rarely see them unless they have like pounds. You know what I mean? But like you said, for the most part, the way that marijuana factors into these cases is it's used for a reason for probable cause to conduct a search, where then like a firearm is found or, you know, other illicit substances. So I'm seeing it more of like, oh, I smelled marijuana and that's what legally allows me to get into the car for a search.
Right.
Got you. I want to transition to COVID-19. I was watching one of your posts, and you were kind of speaking on certain inmates getting out as opposed to other inmates getting out. Can you elaborate a little more on that and expound upon what you were saying in regards to why certain inmates get out over others?
Yeah, so really what it has to do with is these people that are being released early, it's mainly because the governor ordered the CDCR, the Department of Corrections, to release specific individuals, like if you have 60 days or less remaining on a sentence for something that's nonviolent, they're getting booted out more quickly than having to sit and wait for the remaining 60 days or a few weeks or whatever on their sentence. But there's not, what a lot of people don't understand is these early releases, there's no like new law that allows us to say, hey, there's this many days left on this person's sentence, and because of COVID, they should be released. There's still the law that lays out when the time frame that you can be resentenced.
Gotcha. Now to talk about COVID as well, how is that affecting your practice? Is it do you see cases increasing for you? Is it decreasing? How's it affecting you?
It's been about the same. It's really been about the same. The main difference the change that I'm seeing is that not as many people are being taken into custody. So if it's like a low level, even like nonviolent felonies, people aren't getting booked. They're cited and then they have to go to court, and then we're seeing like a decrease or a lag at least in the filings. So the DA's office is taking a little longer to file things. And hopefully on some of them, we won't get a filing at all. So very, very minor changes, but mostly having to do with how many people are in custody.
Gotcha. Oh, Ogai was talking about, we sat in a trial a couple months ago, the ARAB trial in Philadelphia, and we were speaking on how the judge kind of just seemed like he was on the prosecution side, heavy, not giving any love to the defense. Can you just kind of walk us through what a conversation's like during a trial as like that, when you got a judge that's real partial to the prosecution? And obviously I can see like on the defense side, it can kind of seem kind of grim, like, damn, no matter what I throw at it, it really doesn't matter. What's the conversation like with your client after something like that goes down?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the client is there and the client picks up on it. I think the most important thing for defense attorneys in that type of situation is you want to make your record, because if you already know that you're not going to get that win, you want to make your record clear and complete. That way, when it's time to appeal, you have those routes to go down, because if you don't object, then you can't appeal it. So the best thing for a lawyer to do is just be cognizant of making that record, knowing full well that after this is all over, there are going to be issues for appeal. One of the things, you have a constitutional right to a neutral, unbiased decision maker. And so, the more objections you have, the easier it might be to show that this person was not neutral.
And what's the recourse? Do they have to like appeal to a higher court to try to get that judge off the case and to another judge? That's how it works. Well,
not getting that judge off the case, because if you're at trial, then that judge, I don't think can recuse himself in the middle of trial. But it would go to a higher court, and other judges would review that judge's decisions at trial for constitutional error, procedural error, that type of stuff.
What do you think the rate is that those things do get appealed? Is it like a rate that you guys go by?
I don't know what the percentage is for a win on appeal, because there's also a lot of times, you'll appeal a long list of things and maybe one or two will stick, and then it gets sent back down to the lower court to fix it. So it's not like you appeal and you win. There's a lot of gray area in between. But obviously any type of post-conviction relief is rare. For the most part, you see the appellate court upholding the trial court's decisions.
How does that type of situation affect the attorney? Obviously, you're working hard, you're busting your ass to make sure you get justice served for your client. It doesn't seem like justice is being served. Once everything is said and done in your home, how does that affect you in going back into another court case or back into that court case itself?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's discouraging. And I think that a lot of criminal defense attorneys have to figure out how to personally deal with that type of stuff, But the most important thing, I see a lot of older attorneys that are so jaded, and they've taken so many L's throughout their career that they almost like stop trying. And that's one thing that I've always really been focused on is I don't ever want to get to a point where I'm jaded or I stop trying or I'm so discouraged that, you know, it's a lost cause for me. Because I see a lot of older attorneys that get to that point, and that's, you know, the other side is already winning once you get to that point.
I was watching the O.J. Simpson documentary a few months back, and Johnny Cochran pretty much said he wanted to look in his eyes and know that he was innocent. Obviously, everybody has their reservations about that case, but do you have to know for your client that they didn't do it in order to properly represent them, or is it just about the facts of the case?
Well, one of the first things that I tell all my clients is like, look, I'm gonna find out the truth in some way, and if that's in the middle of a court proceeding, then I'm not fully prepared the way that I should be. So one of the things I always tell my clients is like, look, you tell me the truth, because telling me the truth is gonna allow me to give you the best representation. And I've become really, really good at picking up on lies and exaggerations or, you know, things that aren't the truth. And, you know, I'll kind of just tell them like, look, I know that's not the truth. Like, I need you to tell me the truth. But in terms of, you know, whether you think the person did it or not, for me, that does not play a role into how zealously I advocate for them. Everybody gets the same level of aggressiveness and zealous advocacy, because it doesn't matter whether you're guilty or not. What matters to me is that the other side is playing by the rules and that nobody's getting taken advantage of.
That kind of goes along the lines of what I wanted to ask you next. You said something, I don't want to quote you, but you don't represent criminals, you represent wrongfully accused. And you said something also about innocent until proven guilty is no longer, we don't really follow along that mantra. Can you speak about that as well?
Yeah, I think what I had said was, you know, I don't defend bad guys. Everybody that I defend it's somebody's son, it's somebody's brother, it's somebody's dad, or mother or sister. You know what I mean? I don't want to be gender specific. And so these people are more than just somebody who's been, you know, charged with a crime. They're people. They matter to other people. They're family members. And so, you know, I think that we've lost sight of that in our judicial system, because a lot of times when you look at a defendant in court, people kind of automatically look, just society as a whole, they already in their heads have deemed that that person's probably guilty. And that's not how it should be. And it gets really dangerous when cops look at it that way, judges look at it that way, TAs look at it that way. I think that we need to get back to, I don't know how we will, but we need to get back to that idea that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. You know, when you're standing before the judge and you have not been convicted yet, you shouldn't be looked at as guilty. You haven't been convicted.
Powerful. We just have a few more questions, you know, for you today. I want to ask you about the attorney-client privilege thing. Now, obviously, like you want your client to tell you the truth, so that pretty much is if they whatever they tell you, it can't get out what you guys are talking about, right? That's what that means, pretty much, right?
Correct. Yeah. So even if I'm doing like a murder case and in the middle of it, my client is like, look, I got to tell you something. I did it, and this witness is lying for me. I wouldn't be allowed to say anything. I obviously can't put somebody on the stand that I know is lying, but if a client admits that they're guilty, I can't tell anybody. I could lose my license.
Right. Well, go ahead. Then I got another one.
All right. Yeah, I'll talk about transitioning to Instagram. You've niched a real nice lane in Instagram. Unlike any lawyer I've ever seen, and you got ingrained into the hip hop culture as well. Real dope. Talk about your transition into Instagram, how that started, when you realized this is a great lane for me, and what it's done for you and your success and your attorney, your law firm, excuse me.
So it's really interesting. I kind of more transitioned into being a lawyer than transitioning into Instagram, because I've always had a little bit of an Instagram presence, even in law school. So I kind of just incorporated being a lawyer into my Instagram.
So,
But it's been great. The biggest thing for me is I'm able to build a rapport with the community, and even, obviously past my community in all areas of the world. But I'm able to really kind of like form these relationships and rapport with these people even before they need me. So it's really cool in that sense, because most attorneys, I think, they have to learn how to sell themselves and how to be a salesman. And for me, when somebody calls me, I'm not having to hype myself up or, talk about how great I am. They already know who I am, and they already know what I stand for, and they already kind of have an idea about my personality. And so it's really cool in that sense that I don't have to be a salesman.
Do you ever feel pressure to perform, being as though you do, take on celebrity clients? Do you feel like perform like extra pressure? Like, all right, let me come out with this, because I know if I win this big case, that it's going to be like, 50 more of them. Do you ever feel that way? Or was it just like case by case?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. I mean, this job is a lot of pressure, and it's not even just the high profile cases, because even somebody who's not famous but has a lot of contacts in this community or these neighborhoods, that word of mouth is going to get around, and so every case is a lot of pressure, but yeah, especially the high profile ones.
I got one more question. We talked about how when you go into a courtroom and you're judged, it's based off of how you look, and that also made me go back to when we were at ARF's trial, and we're coming back off of recess. We're trying to get back into the courtroom because the snitch is about to come on. Everybody is packed, so everyone's trying to get in.
Yeah.
And we weren't able to get in at that time because the courtroom filled up, and we're coming back home. We're like, damn, you know what? If we were suited and booted and we didn't have on the clothes we had on, and we walked in with a briefcase of professional, 9 times out of 10, they probably would have let us through, because certain people, they just letting suited and booted walk through.
Mm-hmm.
Were we on to something there, or hell no, we would need credentials?
It depends on the courthouse. So some courthouses, they let lawyers just walk through with their briefcases. Mm-hmm. Other one, and usually that's because they recognize those people. Like, those lawyers are going through those doors on a daily basis, regularly. So if you came through and they had never seen you, they would probably ask for your bar card and your ID.
Gotcha. I was like, damn, I might have got that off.
You thought you cracked the code?
Have you tried any federal cases, or just?
I haven't done federal. Oh, actually, no, I haven't done any federal trials, but I've done a lot of federal cases.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, that's all we got today. We definitely appreciate you, coming through and spending this time with us today. And where can the people actually reach you if they want to get in touch with you?
So, if they are contacting me for case inquiries, quotes and stuff like that, I have people 24/7 answering my phone, doing case intakes. And that number is 213-703-0004. And then obviously my Instagram is Nori_the_nightmare. And you can kind of keep up to speed on the laws and criminal defense issues and just overall advice on, dealing with the judicial system.
Awesome. We appreciate you. Wealth of knowledge having you on the platform this afternoon. Definitely, if you're ever on the East Coast in the Atlantic City area, we have our own studio. We'd love to have you come by.
Absolutely.
Have your grandson aboard and do this the right way, man. But everything that's going on right now, we definitely appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to sit with us. Miss Lauren, is Noriega the correct way to say your last name?
Yeah.
Miss Lauren Noriega in the building with the Hip Hop Podcast. Have a blessed day. You take care.
Thank you. Bye.